Now, the rest of the story. I'll be very, very good for always, Jimmy prayed. If only you, God, will bring my mother back to me. But Jimmy's mother was not coming back, and the intelligent 14-year young boy knew that. And still with those whimpered words, he prayed, and he sobbed himself to sleep that first awful night after Mother died. She had been taken away so suddenly, at least it had seemed that way. Until recently, Mary had downplayed the discomfort in her breast, believing it to have been merely an annoying symptom of what was then called the change of life. Eventually, and too late, she realized what was happening to her. A professional midwife, Mary had once been head nurse at the maternity ward at Walton General. She'd seen innumerable cases like hers. And yet even then, Mary clung to her powerful faith and her innate sense that somehow things would turn out all right. I don't want to leave the boys just yet, she told a friend. And yet, if ever it had been, the choice was no longer hers. Only hours after surgery to remove the cancerous tumor, Mary died. Her son Jimmy promptly denied the irrevocability of it. God had made a mistake, he reasoned, but he could still change his mind, couldn't he? And so for weeks following Mary's death, Jimmy prayed that somehow God would reconsider his blunder and return to him the most important woman in the world. And then one night, Jimmy stopped praying. Just shows how stupid religion is. He bitterly informed his brother Mike, the prayers don't work when you really need them to. And at that moment came a tapping at the boy's bedroom door. And a voice, it was his dad's voice, gently calling to his elder son, I have something for you. Well, now, Jimmy's public works inspector father had been a professional musician in years gone by. He'd been a jazz trumpeter, leader of his own swing band, and he still played the piano a little, so he knew the healing power of music, and he hoped that that same power might heal his hurting son. And so it was that this overworked, underpaid, newly widowed father of two, grieving himself, scraped together more cash than he could afford to spend and spent it on a musical instrument for 14-year young Jimmy. Both were weeping now. Nothing can bring your mother back, the father told his boy, but take this anyway, it might help things go easier. Jimmy thanked his dad, took the instrument, and when his dad left the room, the boy embraced it, and he is embracing it still. Few musicians who have ever lived have made it sing as has he. Repayment, you might say, for the solace it gave so freely after Mary went away. Now you've seen where it all began, with a prayer in the dark and a gift from a lonely heart, a loyal companion of wood and strings for a boy named Jimmy, purchased for a hard-earned 15 pounds at a Liverpool music store in 1956. A guitar. For in a way, Mother Mary did return to see her son, they say, whispering words of wisdom, singing in the night, comforting, encouraging, lighting the path for young Jimmy. Young Jimmy became James Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney. Only now you know the rest of the story.
And now the rest of the story. Mary Patricia Moen was born in Liverpool, England, September 29, 1909. Her father, Owen, was a coal merchant. Her mother was Mary Teresa Danner. Paul's grandmother, his mother's mother, also died young. In January 1919, Paul's grandmother died during the birth of her and Owen's fourth child. Unfortunately, the child died as well. At the young age of 14, Paul's mother, Mary, became a nurse at Alder Hey Hospital. 4 years later, she moved out of her family home because she was unable to get along with her stepmother. When she was 24, Mary became a nursing sister while working at Walton Hospital. In the United Kingdom, a nursing sister refers to a nurse of high rank. Nursing sisters are responsible for the overall running of each hospital ward or unit. Hospital staff may have called her a nursing sister, but her patients called her the angel. While working at Walton Hospital, Mary met Jen McCartney, the sister of James Paul Jim McCartney. One night in 1940, Mary stopped by to visit Jen at the McCartney home. That is where Mary met Jim for the first time. As they were visiting, the air raid sirens sounded. The German Luftwaffe were attacking Liverpool. Mary was unable to leave and spent the evening huddled in the basement with Jim and other members of the McCartney family. As a historian, I'm always amazed at how some moments have such a profound effect on things. Everything seems to line up just right. Just imagine if there had been no Luftwaffe raid that night. There may not have been a Paul McCartney, may not have been a Beatles. On April 15, 1941, 38-year-old Jim McCartney and 31-year-old Mary Moen married. They rented a small home at number 10 Sunbury Road in Liverpool. This was their home. On June 18, 1942, Jim and Mary had their first child in Walton Hospital. Mary was given special treatment while at the hospital because she had previously been in charge of the maternity section at that hospital. The baby was named after his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather, James Paul McCartney. You know this little guy. On January 7, 1944, Jim and Mary welcomed their second child, Peter Michael McCartney. Shortly thereafter, the family moved to this bungalow on Roach Avenue in Liverpool. Mary stopped working for a while to raise Paul and Michael, but money was tight. Mary returned to nursing and became a part-time health visitor and a midwife. Mary was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When Mary received a call, she would don her navy blue uniform and hat and pedal away on the family's bicycle. They could not afford a car. Jim made little money, but Mary did well. Paul remembered, "My mom was the upwardly mobile force. She was always moving us to a better address. Originally, we had to go out to the sticks of Liverpool because of her work as a midwife. Roads were unmade, but the midwife's house came free, so economically, it was a good idea. She always wanted to move out of rough areas." Paul remembered that his mom loved to whistle. "That's one of my fond memories of my mom," he said. "You don't hear many women whistling. She was quite musical." Like most parents, Mary wanted the best for her sons. She wanted them to succeed in life. Early on, Paul spoke with a strong Liverpool accent and used a lot of slang. Paul remembered that his mother told him off about it. Those are his words. Mary encouraged Paul to speak properly, Queen's English. Mary envisioned Paul becoming a doctor. In the summer of 1955, Mary began to experience pains in her chest. She took large doses of Bisodol, which was used to treat indigestion and heartburn. In the following year, Michael went into Mary's bedroom and saw her crying. Michael asked his mother why she was crying. She pulled herself together, put on a fake smile, and said, "Nothing, love." Soon thereafter, Mary was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went into the hospital for a mastectomy, but they were unable to stop the cancer. After surgery, Jim, Paul, and Michael went into the room to be with their mother. Paul remembered that it was a huge shock to us. Suddenly she was ill. We were very young. Jim sent Paul and Michael to stay with their Uncle Joe and Aunt Joan so he, Jim, could do whatever he could for Mary. While in the hospital, Mary told her sister-in-law, "I would have liked to have seen the boys grow up." On Halloween morning, October 31st, 1956, Paul and Michael had barely woken up when Aunt Joan told them, "Love, your mom's dead." 47-year-old Mary Patricia Moen McCartney had died from an embolism, a blood clot, while recovering from surgery. 14-year-old Paul cried and prayed. He described them as daft prayers, you know. "If you bring her back, I'll be very, very good for always. I thought it just shows how stupid religion is. See, the prayers didn't work when I really needed them." As Mr. Harvey explained, Jim bought his sons a guitar. Michael remembered that it was just after Mother's death that it started. It became an obsession. It took over Paul's whole life. You lose a mother, and you find a guitar. When Paul and his wife Linda had a daughter, they named her Mary in honor of Paul's mother. In 1995, Linda was diagnosed with breast cancer, which spread to her liver. Paul said, "The doctors had told me privately that we'd caught it too late, that she'll have about 18 months. And that was what she had." 56-year-old Linda Eastman McCartney died on April 17, 1998. Very sad. According to the Mayo Clinic, after skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer diagnosed in women in the United States. But men can also get breast cancer. Breast cancer survival rates have been steadily increasing due to the widespread support for breast cancer awareness and funding for research. Advances in breast cancer screening, such as breast self-exams and mammograms, will help professionals to diagnose breast cancer earlier. Now, if you find a lump or other change in your breast, make an appointment with your doctor. It might save your life. I'll leave a link with more information in the description below. While with the Beatles, Paul wrote the lyrics, "When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be." Knowing what we know now about Paul's mother, the song has a much deeper meaning. Don't you think? I'm Brad Dison. Thanks for watching. And now you know the rest of the story.